Welcome to another edition of the Motley Croc Show. Let's see what the date is. 23rd of May. And we're going to be talking about a couple cool things while we start signing in and getting things going. I'm going to bring Brittany Investigates in here real quick. Hey, Bri.
What's up?
How are you?
I am good. I'm trying to figure out why my mic is all messed up.
What's wrong with your mic? Mine says it's a mind of its own. It moves on me all the time.
Yeah, I see that. No, for some reason.
It's tries to rise up on me. You're kind of freezing a little bit too. But there are some things that I would really like to talk about tonight too. I want to kind of talk about that thiazine. You want to get into that with me? What's up, Bill?
Yeah. Do you want me to pop off and pop back on and see if it fixes?
Yeah, go ahead. Pop off and pop back in. I'll bring you in. Go right ahead.
Okay, let me just see if it fixes it really quick.
Yeah, might fix your internet a little bit.
Yeah, this is just wonky. Hold on.
That's fine. I'll tell people. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about Brittany. So the Tasmanian tiger supposedly has been caught on film again, and we don't know if it's like a hoax or if it's not a hoax or it is a hoax. Hey, Judy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about that with Brittany because there's a lot of back stuff and a lot of survey stuff that's coming on that we definitely really want to make sure that, there's a lot of hoaxers. We know this. So we definitely want to look at that too because why not? Why not? I'm not sure if Jeff will be able to join us tonight. He's not feeling well, but he did say if he got out of it, he would definitely get with us. I'm going to text him, make sure, and make sure everything's okay with him too. And Jimmy's got some things going on, so we'll check with them. But Brittany should pop back in shortly, and we'll get started on some of those other things I really want to touch base on. There's been so many things going on in the world today, especially when it comes to like weird stuff or stuff that's off the charts or a little bit strange or thank you, Judy, the werewolf, a little bit strange, like the dog man and this and that and all this other type of stuff. But I want to touch on that too. As soon as Brittany comes back, we can kind of carry some stuff. But if anybody's got any questions, if you're logged in, you got any questions you want to answer or get answered or ask or something like that, we can talk about it. If there's a topic you know about, if you have anything to put in, such as anything that's really wild or crazy in your area that you may or may not have seen or somebody saw or somebody sent you or you saw online, we try to get to the bottom of all that kind of stuff. Because, we like the darker things here, things that they tell you aren't real, which is okay too, but usually they are. So we'll go from there and try to hold that ground and do that. So I spent a little bit of time this week. Spooky Empire was this weekend. I actually got some really good some stuff. I got some really good. I got to meet Joey Belladonna from Anthrax, lead singer of Anthrax. Really, really kick-ass dude. I happened to buy some artwork that was at the place where it was like all the band members' icons, like Megadeth had their little emblem. Motorhead had the little emblem. Well, all of them were characters, and they were all playing on a card deck. And the Anthrax one, and I don't know if you remember the band Anthrax, but they had like this round, looked like a little twisted mustache kind of thing, kind of crazy looking little face, and it was in there. So he actually signed that for me. So I thought that was actually pretty awesome. And getting to talk with them and, growing up with those guys. And I say growing up with them is because that was like big in our time, that the music industry was very big, what would the word be? It was like an outletting, you could listen to music and you could really have a good time with it. And I think that we don't focus a lot on that. And I think that, music is a big deal. And I think it helps a lot of people. And even in times that you're lonely or you're having a hard time or even a good time, music always makes it better. And I think that was an important thing. And at that time growing up, there was a lot of pushbacks on everything that we did as far as the way people acted or the way people treated us, etc. So being able to meet that person, you're here, Brittany, you sound good. To be able to meet Joey and him was really cool. And, I thanked him. I said, thank you for being there in a time when, we wanted to hear some real stuff, which wasn't such, there was such a veil over everything when we were young and this fear mongering that they would do to our parents and our grandparents, everybody in between. So it was really, really awesome to meet him. He signed that for me. He's going to be in June. They're going to be down here in Clearwater doing a show. So he invited me to come do that. And you guys should check that out on his website too, joeybelladonna.com. He's got his stuff put up. But yeah, we're going to definitely go down there and see him and his wife were awesome people. And I really had a good time meeting them. And the fact that they signed up my stuff, and that was really cool. It was just, it's neat. It's neat to be able to talk to somebody that you followed as a younger person, which was kind of neat. But anyways, Bumblebee, what you doing? What's up? Rami, how you doing? I'm doing good, Rami. It's good to see you, buddy. How are you doing? We still got to take that trip to Arizona. Still waiting on that. Still waiting. So, Brittany, I want to touch on the I guess you call it the thylacine or the Tasmanian tiger. What's been going on with that? Because I've been seeing a lot of it now circulating, and I saw that Forrest, is it Forrest Gallant? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of conflict. I don't really know much about Forrest Gallant, but yes, Rami, very soon. I want to make sure that, I don't know. He seemed to think, as much as he's whatever or whatever controversies or whatever he has with whatever. I know there were some things, you see him do on TV, and that just, and you can really make an ass of yourself. Like I said, that's why I don't like the term expert. I'm not an expert. I work with a lot of things, and I do work with a lot of animals. And I think that the term expert is terrible because you're a nonstop student.
Right. Yep.
So what's up, Sean? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Sean.
Sean got me a cool gift. We'll talk about that later too. So he seems to think it might be real. And we really couldn't break down that interview of that guy. So what do you think? You think it's a social media flare up? You think it's like a BuzzFeed, or you think it's real?
So I have, and I'm like a member of the Women's Cryptid Society in New Zealand. So I reached out to the ladies out there because they would know, basically better than anyone, because that's their area and that's their work. And they told me that the the pictures that Forrest is posting stating that they were sent to him, which now that all part could be true. Somebody could have sent those to him and he could think that they're new. However, those photographs are believed to be photographs that were taken back in 2013 by a farmer who had it on his property and like shot at it and got up close and took pictures of it. And those have been well documented in New Zealand. So now if this is where Forrest has to watch what he says, because he claims to be, an expert on the thylacine, and, this is his area of expertise. If he is, then he would have known that these photographs may have been the alleged photograph from the farmer from 2013 recirculating through somebody else, finding it and trying to dupe him. So that's why it's always one of those things that you can't just come out and say, oh my gosh, I think this is brand new. This is taken from this guy. We have to take it by a grain of salt. And the post on the Facebook post that they originated on was kind of a vague post, and there was a few holes in it. But it seemed like a normal, I saw this thing, here's the post, here's the pictures type of situation. So that's why I reached out to them in New Zealand. And, it's very interesting. And as Lisa stated, and for those of you that want to look into it too, the Women's Cryptid Society in New Zealand, they do a lot of work with a lot of the cryptozoologists in the area, as well as Tasmania and Papua New Guinea. And what's really fascinating is that this is not uncommon to see the thylacine. They just keep it under wraps because a lot of the farmers and a lot of the people don't want their lands being taken, or basically you get that whole tourism that comes over, and then you get the people with the television shows and everybody coming over and bum rushing to basically be like, there's a thylacine, we got to go get it. And then everybody's property gets taken down. So they're kind of in New Zealand, through Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, and Tasmania, they're actually protected. So that information stays very central and localized to that location. And they don't really want it very well public because they don't want them being shot at or taken down or murdered. And so this type of publicity will probably be hushed pretty quickly on the New Zealand and Tasmania side, just because it's not that they don't want science to know about them, but there's a problem with science knowing about them, because every time we rediscover an animal, we have a tendency to do more harm than good. And that's kind of where New Zealand's out of wanting to protect it, knowing that these sightings are happening quite frequently, even in New Zealand and not just in Tasmania. So, and that's coming directly from the homeland itself, which is really fascinating. So I think that's something that we should, definitely think about.
Okay. So you're saying that those pictures come from 2013 from a farmer. Why would he shoot it?
Well, no, he it wasn't that he didn't shoot it. He shot at it and he scared it. And then he got up on it and was taking pictures because he thought it was just a dog. So he thought it was just a dog that he was shooting at in the yard, like, just go like a wild dog. and he didn't shoot it like to shoot it to hurt it. He was shooting at it, type of thing.
So I just wonder why they can't. It's not like that animal is like a severely evasive or cloaking type animal. I wonder why they can't just find it outright, in that territory. There should be ways to find it.
They have,
a lot easier than because it's not really a cryptid. It's something that was thought to be extinct. So it does exist. It has existed. So it's not like,
but it still falls. It still falls under cryptid because cryptid alone just means hidden. So it still falls under the
I know, but wouldn't it be under the extinct? Just the extinct species, functionally extinct.
Yeah, that's what it says scientifically. Yeah.
So I thought the thylacine was considered like am I saying that right? The thylacine.
Thylacine.
Thylacine sounds like something you put between your toes when you got like
I don't know why they're called that. I know
foot rot or something like that. A thylacine. Stop at your local Walgreens and get some thylacine.
Yeah, it does. But the thing is,
so I just wondered. Because I thought you could find something like that. What's up, beginners? I thought that you could find that, and I think so.
Well, but locally they're known and they are seen. Like they're seen often. Like there's actual drone footage that you can look right now on YouTube of a guy that was out. You can type it in Tasmanian drone footage in Australia.
Why don't they just go out there and just document some stuff and put it back on the books?
Because apparently in New Zealand, they're heavily protected. So they try and make it seem like, no, there hasn't been any sightings. No, it's all misinformation because they're afraid what other countries will do if they come over to basically start doing work on this. And as you've seen in other countries, how that's gone over well. So it's not like they don't know where they are.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, because I think logically your government can control that and they can make their fines or their punishments a lot greater for harming the animal. But even their science themselves should put it back out. But I can tell you a story that sometimes when animals are functional, like the Spix macaw is functionally extinct in the wild, right? But there are people that have them. Right. They're in zoos. They're around. They're a beautiful animal. I think the movie Rio was made about the Spix macaw. It's very blue. It's similar to a blue and gold, but it's definitely not. It's really, really blue, but it's functionally extinct. Meaning there really isn't any of them in the wild at all. So, and we've run into issues like that with crocodiles where they thought, certain species. I'm not going to get into the species because anybody who knows crocs knows it, but just for the sake of the room here, crocodiles, they found an entire farm where they were illegally breeding and keeping these things by the thousands, but in the wild they were gone. But they found them. So there was a whole article I read and it was talking about, so the government approached them and said that they're doing a good job of this. We're going to take this over. You're going to be employed instead of going to prison for what you've done, what you've been doing. You're going to be employed. You're going to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. And so there's been some things coming back as far as that goes for crocodiles. So I just thought that maybe somebody would do something along those lines for the thylacine foot cream animal.
I mean, they might be. I know that there's a gentleman who lives in Tasmania who has done this his whole life. His whole life has been dedicated to the actual creature itself since the 30s. So it's been like a generational thing, and they have trail cameras set up. They get photographs, they get videos, they get scat, they get hair samples, they collect it, they send it to the local science, they keep it. But again, it's one of those situations where it's under wraps in a sense, and I can understand why they're protecting it. Unfortunately, I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in, and I can't really say that. I don't know. I think if the United States maybe had a really cool animal that they were trying to protect, and again, Papua New Guinea, even from when I was talking to my friend Lisa, she was like, Papua New Guinea has so many animals, and the great thing about Papua New Guinea is because human interaction on Papua New Guinea has not really happened at all.
I know.
The animals.
I know, that's crazy. That's a crazy place.
Yeah, and the animals don't fear people. They don't see them as like a threat because they just don't know any different. So even in Papua New Guinea, they're more, they're just more docile in a sense. They're more like curious of who we are. You get more interactions. You just get a lot more activity from them. And so it's believed that there's a ton of like different known and unknown cryptids still in Papua New Guinea that are yet to be discovered. And I think that
be careful of the faces you're making while you're telling me the stories because you're glitching. So you're like, there's a ton of new stories coming on, like, and you pop out of it. So yeah, got to kind of remember that when you're like, oh my, But yeah, so there's still a ton of different stuff coming out. I was going to say this because a lot of people get on, oh, come on, this is bullshit and shit. And there's some terrible fucking shows on some of these networks these days. I mean, just terrible.
Yeah.
And like really just money grab shows, right?
Yeah.
That I'm just not really interested in that stuff. And I'll be very frank here. I think it's in poor taste. And I think that, when you ask someone, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I believe that there's tons of Sasquatch running around and stuff and all that stuff. But I would like to see one.
Right.
Right. Like, I want to be scared to death, dude. Like, where, for just a moment, dude, you have no genitalia because it all's hiding inside you because you're terrified. Because I just think, I always like when your reality is altered, good or bad. A lot of people don't like to get into that subject, but when for some people, it's losing a loved one or experiencing something they've never experienced before. Your reality is completely altered, and that's what's important, I think. And I think that that's the lure why people think, because we're always fed the same garbage everywhere we go. It's the same garbage. Oh, Trump did this and Biden did that and blah blah, and this guy did this. And I read a story today, and that was sent to me, and I'll tell you how disgusting the world is. That there was a convicted rapist. Okay, and I'm not gonna give all the information out, but he was a severe rapist, and not just to women, but to minors and children. Okay. And then he was caught. And then all of a sudden, when he had to go to prison, he became a woman. Okay. So of course he did, because he didn't want to go to a men's prison and be fucking destroyed. Because in the prison systems, those people don't take too kind to pedophiles and rapists and people who violently go after people for no reason. They kill them. They don't like that. These men and women that are in prison, dude, they're just real people like us that may have made a mistake. They might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Hello, Justin. Very loud, but at the wrong place at the wrong time. But then this guy turns around, and I'm just going to mute Justin for just a second. And then they turn around, and all of a sudden he wants to become a transgender so that he can go into a female prison. And the panel was like, well, do these women in prison have a right to not deal with this? Right.
Right.
So you get fed all this bullshit in life and all this stuff that constantly goes on and on and on and on and on in the BS and stuff. And so when it comes down to seeing something like a cryptid, or coming to see like a wild animal that we've never seen before, or, a 5,000-pound grizzly bear, or a 10,000-pound whale, or whatever it is, to me, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think, I agree with that. I think we get too comfortable and too complacent. And I think that there's a time that you need to have a little bit of a shock to alter you for just a minute, to not be so comfortable.
And I got to tell you, there's been things that I've done that I've been with you and I've been with Justin, and there's some things that I just can't explain. Right. So, I can explain away a lot of things. I'm aware of a lot of things what wildlife does, and sometimes it's close. And there's always those things you're like, I just really can't explain that, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think that's okay. But I think that's okay. I don't think that we should always have all the answers. I think that's a big problem that we have, is everybody wants to have the answers. Everybody wants to be the next know-it-all. But I don't ever want to be that way. I'd rather sit in the unknown for a while with questions. And if they never get answered, that's okay. Like, I don't have to have an answer for every single thing out there.
I understand that. I understand it. And that's what I mean. So we have this like like I said, we're fed a bunch of garbage all the time that keep us segregated and all this stuff. So when you see, like I was saying, when you see like a terrible show on a network, a cash grab show, to us it sucks. But there's a lot of people that watch it just because they want that fantasy. They want to be able to live that fantasy of seeing something that could be unknown, going to bed and wondering. And to me, it's like, if anyone who knows me has ever been to my house, or the way I act, or what I do, it's like, this is like Neverland, man. Like, you got to be a kid as long as you can. I mean, now we have responsibilities. I just feel like I'm a big kid with responsibilities, so I got to take care of those first. But that age of wonder, and sitting in your backyard with animals, or Justin having a pygmy anteater hanging off his neck, that kind of stuff is not what everybody can do. So no, I encourage people to be that way and really get into the other side of things. That's why Spook Empire is fun, or MegaCon is fun. And we don't go too far. Like, I'm not going to go buy a toy that looks like one of my favorite characters so I can fuck it every night before bed. We're not talking about just weirdos. We're talking about just having a good time and enjoying it. You know what I mean? What's up, Jeff? And so just really having fun. I collect a lot of things from the 80s, from when I was a kid, like from horror movies and metals. I just really love that. And I think people look at cryptozoology and fun shows like that as a cool thing. It's always that what if. Let's change the shit we're constantly being fed. And I think that's where it comes in. And I love that, Justin. What do you think?
Do you think that involves, to your point of on both ends of it, because I caught the ass end of the one story because I had no service, but I get the gist of everything that's going on right now. So, like, the stuff that you collect from the 80s and stuff like that, like, that's the era you grew up, that's what makes you feel comfortable, it's nostalgic. So do you think to some point, like, when these people get into the TV shows, it's, like, kind of nostalgia from things that may have happened in the past that bring them back to a place of mystery? Almost like way back in the day, I remember watching the first documentary when they tried to put together that one famous video. And they were trying to figure out, like, okay, was it a suit? Was it this? And then they had all
Patterson
the Patrick, whatever Gilman was.
Patterson Gimlin video.
Yeah. So the one where it's just like it walks away from them or whatever and has a couple tries and then it's gone. So they had, this was way back in the day before any streaming, no YouTube, no social media, none of that. And it was just, like an hour-long documentary basically about, they put it together.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. Let me touch on that. I think you'll like this. A lot of people don't know this. And I did look into this. So back when that documentary was released, when it first came out, it was severely edited, right?
You know what I'm talking about? The one
where
they
where he rode on horseback, where he pulled up, there was blood and all kinds of shit there. Like something had gone on. Something was being eaten or gutted. It was a big deal. They rode up on it. It could have been a fight between two squats. They have no idea. There was blood on the rocks. There was a lot more shit going on there than they actually let loose when they did the original documentary. Those guys had a ton more shit, dude, that was filmed, and all you saw was the walking away. But they had been chasing that thing. They had been chasing it on horseback, and he just got it to where it slowed down enough where he could jump off and start to film that thing and couldn't get further in. But when they came up on them, they were doing stuff like feeding on something or fighting or something. There was something really crazy going on. And later on, that stuff started coming out. But because of TV and how much they'd allow you to do, like we can always go back to the books. What was it? The Something of the Gods, Chariots of the Gods. That was banned too, by the way.
Yes, it was. And
because it affected it. So I wanted to say that to you. So yes, go back to your point that there was so much that they didn't release because they were still limiting information to the general public. But go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, it just basically, like, it brings back that, like, for me back then, I remember watching that and, like, a state of wonder, trying to see, like, okay, was it real? Was it not real or whatever? And trying to see things from both sides. And I think back then I was possibly a little bit more open-minded to things like that, where now I've gotten a little bit older, and then maybe it's because I'm older, or maybe it's because I'm so stuck in my ways and stuff, where now I'm like so far on the skeptical side that unless you put one in front of my face, it'll be really hard for me to jump from one side to the other. Now, you did mention that, when we go off and we've done some things together and we've seen some weird stuff and all that shit. And it's true. It does kind of like baffle your mind. Now, I still try and logistically put it together in my brain as, okay, it could be this, that, or the other. And then I stick with what I know is around in the area and try and base it off of that and build it off that. So it's almost like when people look at Ed and Lorraine Warren for what they did and how famous they were and the movies and all the money they made versus like what actually went down with those people. And then you kind of have to think about, like, okay, so, the one side sits as a skeptic and the other side sits as a hardcore Christian trying to push, demonology and demons and stuff to drive people towards the Catholic Church and all that shit. So is it like two sides of the same coin, no matter which way you cut the cookie? So if I'm so far left on the skeptic side, and then like Brittany obviously is far right on the believer side or whatever, are we pretty much doing the same thing where we're steering our own narrative because that's where our brain wants to go?
I agree with that. And I think to answer you there, for me, I have to try to stay right in the middle, because I have caught myself more than one time saying stranger things have happened, you know? And so just some of the stuff that I've been involved with, I think there's something that we don't know. So I can't be really this way and I can't be really this way, because I think I got to stay right in the center of it, because I want to be just open enough to accept and just close enough not to eat the bullshit sandwich. How's that sound?
I get that 100%. And then I think, like, for me, I try to open my mind a little bit more, but I'm so solidified in my ways. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. We'll find out as time goes on. But the question becomes, like, you know, like, maybe it's good to have that far, you know, people that get along, people that can go fuck around and have a good time or whatever. And if we do see things or whatever, then there's always people picking apart both sides. So nobody's just sitting on one square section. So, like, you're in the middle, I'm on the left, Brittany's on the right. And I think almost that helps. Like, even when we go down to the Everglades, like when we're hunting for caiman or whatever, if we see something weird or whatever, there's always somebody that's on this side, one in the middle, and then one on the other side. So I think it kind of helps in that sense to have, like, all the different points of view and all the different perception of what's going on, so that not one single person goes overboard with it, and then everybody's picking off each other's brains to kind of try and come to some sort of conclusion.
To me, it's like this. I agree. I think that you have everybody breaking down good information. I think when you're doing investigative work.
Sorry.
What was that?
The asshole got pulled over in front of me.
The one that was bashing.
Not me this time.
It's not Justin this time. Thank God. Well, that's because we're not in the car when you're driving. But you know, when it comes down to that type of stuff, man, I'm like, I'm gonna go do it for myself, and I open each door. So nothing is out of the question to me, right? So if I go into this door and I don't find anything in this particular time we're investigating, I'm good. If I see something, I stash it as evidence. And maybe one day, before we die, you know, you got to remember, like I said, and it's been going on since the 1960s, we're fed a bunch of garbage, straight garbage. And your job is to do what they say, not as they do. And they teach you to believe this way of, you have to grow up and you have to get this job, and then you got to make this happen, and you got to do this, and you got to pay your taxes. It's a form of brainwashing that's been going on for a very long time to make higher up people more money. Period. End of story. So to take away the thought, the freedom of thought, and the freedom of fantasy, and to be who you are and destroy that is the best way to keep them running, making their money. Because when people turn around and go the other way, and they break that stride, and they do what they want to do, it fucking causes a chink in the armor, and they don't like that.
No.
So they're going to tell you all that, and that's it.
And I think I learned the hard way, because, you know, doing what we do for a living, I know you've backed off it a little bit or whatever, but you're still in the industry, whether you like it or not.
100%. I got you. It just pulls you right back in like an old noose.
I mean, it's never going anywhere. But for me, like, I always stay on the right side of the law with the things that I do with the animals and all that stuff, and I make sure that everything is taken care of. And then I go out of my way to help these agencies and stuff. And you know, in my mind, I always believe, like, okay, these agencies are put in place for a reason. What could possibly go wrong or whatever? And then a couple of years ago, you know, I help out a very large organization that I won't say their name, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they steal, you know, 60, 70 grand from me, and there's nothing I can do about it. You can't even talk to anybody out there. And then I finally kind of took a step back and realized, like, these people are not here to help me or to help the animals or whatever. Like, this is just a front, and it's just a way for them to tell you, like, oh, you know, we're here to save the world, when in reality they're here to save the budget. And I think
to save the budget and to be the cool look at me. And I can tell you this: a lot of people think, like, you know, they get into like the academic side of what we do, the academics. You know, they're just as shitbag as us, dude, when it comes to that stuff on this side. So I could be, if I was on that side, right? Justin's out doing hard work and he's writing a paper. I would be his best buddy, which I've seen him do it. I know these people do it because I've seen them do it. They'll be best friends. They'll steal all your work and then they'll publish it themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
they
a
can be
couple
the
of
first
names
one
you
in
can Google
history.
right now.
Look at me. I found this.
Well,
And I think
I was gonna say right away when you said that, I said I'm sure Brittany, especially in what she does, has plenty of people that she could probably rattle off that do that, especially in her line of work.
yeah, because I get this
Yep.
thing a lot of times, and I'll argue any one of them. It's what you know, right? Like I know some people that study, microorganisms and disease. So if I have a question, I go to them because they studied it, right? It doesn't make that person smarter than you or better than you because there's things that I've done that they fucking can't do. And I just think that when you get this idea that you got to go to school and you got to get an education and you got to do this, that's all trash too. Why do I have to take 4 years of electives just to get into vet school? Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Why wouldn't I go into being a vet? Why I got to know what Benjamin Franklin did with his slaves and how he tied a fucking key to a light bulb or whatever the fuck he did? Who gives a shit what Benjamin Franklin did? I want to save animals. Does anybody think about that?
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to your control thing or whatever. But like at the end of the day,
money in the
like,
colleges.
Yes, 100%. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that have to go to school. Like, if I want a doctor that went to school to treat me, 100%. I don't want somebody that's a fly by night that went to, that's from some, whatever, has a fake permit or whatever, doing whatever doctorate work on me. I don't want that. I want the guy that went to school to do that, but he had to go through all the other channels and learn all the stuff that he's never going to use to do that. But on the other side of things or whatever, for some of us that may not have completed high school, I'm not going to say who in this group or whatever, it was me. I still chased my own dream and I did what I wanted to do. And, I'm not going to say that I'm the best in the world or anything like that, but I like to think that I've done pretty well.
Listen, man, I'm going to say this to you again. People don't like that, Justin, back then, because who gives a fuck if you didn't complete high school? If you're talented enough to do what you do, Billy Idol, dude, dropped out in 8th grade, man, but he was talented at what he did, and look at him today. It depends on who you are. If you're a person that needs structure, you have to do something with yourself where someone gives you structure. It's your chemical makeup. If you don't, and you're highly creative, look at the highly creative people in the world, dude. Most of them did not complete high school. They don't need to. It's not their calling to be in a business somewhere to do arithmetic and read and write or to go become a teacher.
Well, it's like, let's say Brittany wanted to be an artist, which she could, which I'm not sure why she isn't. But like, she wouldn't have to.
You mean a professional paid artist?
150%, yeah, 150%. But you wouldn't have had to go to school to let somebody like, that's something that you were born with. Like nobody. I mean, I'm sure people could teach you a technique here and there or whatever, but you can learn that just by going through and doing
by looking at it.
Well, or just being a painter, and then you get friends or whatever, and you do what we do. To your point, where you were like, okay, well, I have friends that do microorganisms, so if I have a question, I ask them. So same with Brittany. If she's going to be a painter, she's going to be around other painters, and she's like, oh, that's cool. How'd you do that? And then the information is transferred, rather than sitting in a class that you may not like, that may stray you away from what it is that you want to do for certain things.
Well, I would be okay if they had like, for that in particular, I graduated high school at 15, right? And then like I wanted to do digital animation and graphic design. Why in art do I have to retake the basic fundamentals of what I already been through high school to do when it has nothing to do with art?
Especially if you graduated at 15. Like, obviously you're accelerated, so, and then you want to do what you want to do.
Right.
And then they push you back into, okay, well, you could do this, but you have to take this, and this.
Right. And that's what I didn't want to do. I was like, I don't want to put myself in debt, a lot of money in debt for what? To do a job that everybody else is doing?
I think that's the key. And then, like, that's stuff that, I mean, at this point, you've taught yourself. Speaking of editing, I know this is completely off topic and shit, and I'm going to derail the show right now, but I really wanted to know. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. Is the Ma Barker thing coming out anytime soon?
So I have started working on the Ma Barker edit, like to put it into a video, like I have been doing, like that you two have been seeing, like my past work. Right. Kicker is that when we were having the session in the room with the necrophone, the audio in my camera was glitching really bad and like not normal glitch. So thank God I had my other recorder going to
I just muted
record.
Justin for a second because it got loud. That's the only
Yeah,
reason I did.
to record what was being said in the room, like on my actual recorder. The recorder's right here, actually. So I've been working on it. Because I'm trying to match up the sequencing of the points of where the audio just goes out. Like it just goes out to this really weird ringing and then pops back in. So it's really weird. And I will say that that's not uncommon to happen in high active paranormal locations. Like that is not uncommon that audios will get tripped and then like you'll just have video with no audio. That is not uncommon whatsoever. So now it's probably not going to be as long as I would have liked it to have been, because now I have to spend a lot of time editing and sequencing audio from my recorder to match up to the visuals that I have, but I'll be able to do different visuals. So it's a little bit of a headache, but it'll get there.
Well, the reason I asked is to kind of bring it all full circle to what we were talking about before, basically saying that, from what we talked about with, leaving people in mystery and having them see things that are different. I saw some of that. And even I was like, okay, that's a little bit weird. And it's things that I can't explain. And I know certain people will go out, and I'm sure there's a bunch of YouTube channels that do the same thing or whatever, and probably fake a bunch of stuff and all that shit or whatever. But then I know you guys, and I know you didn't go out there set out to run amok or whatever. You went to go do a thing, and if something happens, something happens. If something doesn't, it doesn't.
Correct.
If something did. So I'm interested to see. I want to see how people react to that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I posted a small clip right now, just from what Ant felt and experienced in his sensory deprivation, and it's really reading well for the audience to understand that sometimes when you have certain sensories taken away, you use a different part of your brain that you didn't realize that you could use. And again, that comes down to understanding that your brain power, we don't use nearly any of it, to be honest with you. So our capacity of what we could actually do with our brain, you hear these stories of people that can bend spoons or move doors, and people are like, that's so ridiculous, you can't do that. Maybe you can't because you don't think that you can because you've been told you can't. But if we had not been told that or been taught that, and we were told that we could do anything with the power of our mind, then all our whole life we would be doing everything and focusing that energy to make that happen. So again, that's a type of, as even Jeff wrote earlier, it is brain slavery in a sense, which is sad because there's a whole agenda movement underlined since the 30s, since school was really put into place, because you can't control people that are open-minded and actually can be smarter or think 10 times faster than you. And I think that's a lot of times why people hate Elon Musk so much, because he's already outsmarted half the people on this globe by 10 steps ahead of them in a very basic, matter-of-fact way. But he's been utilized and allowed to use his full percentage of his brain to the best capacity that he could without any limitations. They're not putting a lid on him. And so even in the paranormal and in different things, and as you mentioned earlier, you might be on one side, Troy's kind of in the middle, and I'm on one side. That's okay, because I think that over time, I might learn something from that, but then also it might help you not necessarily reprogram, but it's like, you have to think of it in the sense of like when we're kids, we think we're seeing shadow monsters and our parents just really want us to go to bed so they can have a night to themselves and not have to have us chasing into their room and like being up them all night long. And so they're like, there's no monsters. See, there's nothing in here. But in truth, our brains are so open until 8 years old. They're just a sponge. They are so absorbing of everything around them that it's possible that they are really seeing things that we no longer can see because we've been told we don't see them. They're not real. They don't exist. So we have learned and taught ourselves these things do not exist. So we put ourselves down. And so I think that we shouldn't do that to our kids. I think if our kids are telling us these things, we should continue to encourage that part of the brain and let it remain open. Because in life, we should see the world in 3-dimensional, not so 2-dimensional. And if we did, I think we'd be able to see a hell of a lot more. And the frequencies and the actual planes of existence that are circling around us right now, we've been told they don't exist.
Let me give you an example. I'm extremely, and Justin has spent enough time with me to understand, I'm extremely in tune to seeing things, dude. And it doesn't have to be supernatural or monsters. Right. Things happen around me and Justin that don't happen to nobody else, man. I mean, I'm like, did you just see that happen like that? It's like this, whatever this area of perception that we're in puts us in these things that you just wouldn't understand. Like, like Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, dude. I sent that to Justin because he happened to send me something and he said, "Top this fool." And I happened to be somewhere. Right as I looked up, I'm like, "Okay, bitch." And I went, boop, and I put it up, and he's like, "Whoa, you topped it." And I think it's because we just see it. And once you get in that zone, you're able to see those things. I'm serious.
Yep.
It was
you're out of this track. You're out of this one track.
Yep.
It was literally 13 seconds after I had sent it, and I was like, no way he's going to have something for this. And he did. But then there's other things, too. Like, we'll be talking about something that maybe we haven't talked about in forever, or like an old-ass movie or something, and then we go somewhere, and we'll see what we were talking about, which should not be anywhere visible. Like shit from the 70s or the 80s.
Oh, well, here's the story. Here's the story for everybody. And Justin and Brittany were there. We were texting with Kim, and she was like, "Hey, have you guys ever seen Thumbelina?"
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Now, you got to remember, we're out on our project. We're working or whatever, but we had some off time. So we were driving around. I don't even remember where we were. Where were we?
This was Cody. No, Alaska.
Minnesota.
No.
Yeah, it was Minnesota and ENT.
Yep.
Was it?
Yeah.
So we went down. So get this, Jeff. So she's
Okay,
like, "Have
hold
you
on.
ever seen a movie Thumbelina? It's like the best movie ever. It's fucking so cool." And Brittany's like, "I saw it." I'm like, "I don't really remember it. I know it was a long time ago, whatever." So we drive by there's this old town, and in the middle of this town, there's an antique store. When we go in, we like walk around, we look, and lo and behold, there's a wall and a shelf with nothing on it but the movie Thumbelina.
Oh, I thought I had a picture.
What in the fuck is that? That literally happened.
That's the thrift store.
Every day.
Hold on.
Every day.
Right?
Back up there. We go straight in. Remember, when we walked in, we first saw an entire shelf full of like VHS tapes, which was like, okay, whatever, it's VHS tapes or whatever. So it's interesting to see. We haven't seen them in a long time. So there was a whole shelf full of that. And then we're walking back out the other way. And for no reason at all, Thumbelina was pulled out, put by itself on top of a shelf away from all the other VHS. Just by itself, just sitting there.
Like, right when you walk in the door. Like as soon as you
right,
walk
Jeff?
in the door.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It happened to me the other day. I was flipping through Facebook and I saw a picture of a couple that reminded me of a couple I know. I hadn't talked to them like a year or so, and out of nowhere, later that afternoon, this is like a couple days ago, I get a text saying, "Hey, how are you? I hope you're doing good." I'm like, wow, man, talk about random.
Here's another one.
That's
I'll
crazy.
say, Jeff, we're in the middle. We're in the middle of Hope, Canada, New British Columbia. Hope, where they filmed Rambo. So one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, next to Legend, was The Never-Ending Story. Just fucking love that movie. I always have. Justin loves that movie. So Tuesday night only in Hope, Canada. Tuesday night, there's a showing of The Never-Ending Story.
Yeah.
I walked up and I go, "Justin, what the fuck are the odds of this? In the middle of this place, in the middle of nowhere, they're having one night only of showing The Never-Ending Story, dude."
That's crazy.
Like, of all the movies they could have done, him and I were there at the same time. We love that movie. That's that movie. And it's not because people would be like, "Well, that's all coincidence." Then there was far too many coincidences happening. To me,
I was just going to say that.
It means you're out of the fucking normal.
I won't say my son's actual birth date just because I like to protect certain things like that online. But in one of the places that we were filming in, one of the locations, they had actually shot and mounted a deer on the exact day, month, and year that my son was born. And I took a picture of it. I still have it. And I looked at my brother. I was like, I mean, you can't get all three identical and put on a wall.
To me, all it tells you just tells you you're on the right track.
Right.
You're on the right track, man. That's it. That's it.
It's weird things like that. And then, you're looking at the movie theater and then we round the corner and for no reason at all, there's a wood carving of a baby alligator popping out of an egg.
Well, there is a
Yep.
legend in Canada of alligators. Like, you guys should look it up. It's part of it, like a lore. It is really interesting.
Brittany, I'm pretty sure alligators are real.
No, I don't mean that. I mean up in Canada. It's a really interesting.
Yeah,
like,
Justin and I were
lore.
we were probably looking for like a convenience store because everything closes at 2:30. But we were probably looking for a convenience store or something to grab, lunch at. And we come around the corner, and there was a giant hand carved egg with an alligator popping out of it.
Crazy.
I mean, it was one thing after the next where we just started looking at it like, well, like I said, man.
It's just almost like, okay, you're where you're supposed to be type shit.
Yeah, it is really weird.
I really believe that. I think you're absolutely correct on that.
There he is.
That's it.
Right.
A little gator coming out of an egg.
Stranger than fiction, man. That's what they say. I can't tell you how many times I think of a song I haven't heard in years and years, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it pops up in some random place or in a movie I'm watching, or, on a store speaker. And, every time I probably dismiss it as a weird coincidence. It happens all the time.
Well, look at, I'll bring it to something that, is all my bad bites. Every bad bite that I've ever had. I know it's going to happen before it happens. The day that my finger got bit off or whatever, I looked at Ryan, my brother, when he was driving over there, and I was like, some shit's going down today. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, it's just not a good day. He's like, what are you talking about? And now, there was 2 shows, for Gator shows that I had canceled, which I never do. So 2 out of my entire life of doing it or whatever, 2 that I've canceled just because I had that gut feeling. And finally I was like, you know what? I have a gut feeling. I go listen to it this time. Every time I don't, I lose a body part. But I don't know if it's just me putting it out there or whatever the case may be, but it's just like, it's too weird to be coincidental for like every time for me to have something very serious happen. Like the morning of, I'll be like, it's not like I feel off or tired. It's not like I didn't get sleep the night before. I didn't party the night before. None of that shit. I just wake up and I just know that something's going to happen. I don't know when, where, how, whatever. I just know something's going to happen. And those have been my worst. Yeah. The worst.
How many stories?
But I know.
Oh, sorry. How many stories do you hear about people who, they go to the airport and they get a sinking feeling or a bad feeling, so they skip their flight and it crashes or something happens?
Yeah.
And they interview them and they're like, at the last minute, something told me not to get on that plane or not to get in that car, all kinds of stuff. It's insane.
It's interesting too, because there was actually an account on the Titanic that happened. There was a gentleman who boarded. So there were two different boats, because the Titanic was so large it couldn't come all the way into the port between the one port in England.
Let's not forget it was unsinkable.
Yeah.
You never say that because that's doomed.
Yeah. Between the port of England and Ireland, the ports were too small. The Titanic couldn't actually come all the way in. So 2 smaller boats would come in. They would gather up the passengers and take them to the boat, and they would load up offshore, right? So there was a gentleman that had boarded to get onto the first boat that picked them up from England and carried them to Ireland. And then from Ireland, they then would have boarded to get onto the Titanic for the final from Liverpool and all that. So when he got to the Irish connection, he had this overwhelming sensation and feeling that he shouldn't be getting onto the Titanic. He had everything telling him red flags. So he gave his ticket away to somebody who had wanted to go on the Titanic, which that's horrible. But he honestly told that person, he said, I'm dodging this because something inside me just telling me not to take this trip, not to take this boat trip.
Old school chime right there, Brittany. Did you hear that?
I did hear ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And anyway, and so come to find out, the person that actually got his ticket survived, but tried to refine the gentleman that bought that original ticket to let him know that his intuition was correct.
To let him know he was an asshole for giving him that ticket.
Yeah, he was lucky he was survived, because people don't realize that. But on the Titanic, it depended on what side you were on. Only one side of the ship actually did women and children only. The other side was everybody got on. So that was their mistake. One side of the ship was handled a different way than the other side. So it was kind of weird how certain people survived. It just depended on what side of the ship you were on, which is why a lot of children and families did die on one side because they all couldn't get on the boats. So it was just very fascinating. But there was a person that had a feeling and he didn't do it, and it was well documented, and it's crazy. And then again, I think that's also intuition. I think that's, you're connecting to, whatever you believe, whether that's God, your guardian angels, your whatever they, your guides, or the frequencies around you telling you, don't do these things. I think you need to pay attention to those when they come.
My dog.
I think a lot of times too, man.
Instincts.
Think about a lot
Exactly.
of
I just mean no matter what, it's coming from you. You need to pay attention to it. Right.
Your brain has a lot to do with fucking you up, and I think
yes,
everything to do with it.
There's a lot of things that I study and I really try to practice, and because my drive is so hard, sometimes my drive is so high that sometimes I'm not ever satisfied with the good that I've done for myself. So that's one of my faults, because I have heavy drive.
There
are things like
oh, there he is.
It's a little runt. Oh, look at him, dude.
Oh my god,
got a diaper on.
Slashes little siblings, dude.
Anytime you need me to rough lemur sit for you, I got you, buddy.
Well, there's 4 over here running amok. As soon as
they're so cool. Look at his little diaper ass, dude. I love them. And they grow up.
He's adorable.
I want everybody to know they grow up.
Had his little diaper. I was looking at pictures of Axel last night. This is weird again. I was showing somebody pictures because they were talking about lemurs. I was showing them pictures of Axel, and when he was a baby, actually, the first time I saw him, Justin had come over with his little cotton top tamarin, right? Was that what it was?
Yep.
And I have pictures of it.
It was refrigerated it on the way over. I remember.
It was like this big resting on my arm, and there was one picture of all my kids holding Axel in his little diaper. Like last night, this happened, or early this morning.
It's just nuts.
See? I didn't know that Justin had diaper lemurs in his house.
Yep.
Now he's not the only one wearing a diaper over there.
Thank God.
Look at that little. Let me tell you something. You want those little bastards to wear diapers? I know.
Oh, I bet, dude. I bet.
Let me tell you something. Everybody, let me just say this. Everybody bitches about ringtail lemurs and stuff like that. What's up, Mike? And
Mike.
I put them to bed every night. I shift all my animals. Justin's aware of that, and I said it before. I bring them in. The lemurs, the ringtails, have the cleanest little boxes, dude. The motherfucking roughs. Finger paint with shit. They paint it on the bars. They stick it on there and they put it in their hair. You go to get them out and they've got shit on their hair. And they just rubbed it all over like it's a party in there. Pisses me off, and they still do that shit to this day as an adult.
Adorable.
They still do it.
It's just different. Like the ringtails have like that solid shit, and then these guys have just mashed potato shit.
Besides solid shit, they never shit in their box. Never.
No,
they never do it.
Keep, well, like
they do.
Like my ringtails, they had one spot that they went to the bathroom in. They would go kind of
here too. Same thing here. Outside.
But these guys, like now, mind you, Bimini and Fiji out there, they have like one-ish spot, but they'll go other places too or whatever. Like wherever they're at, they're gonna shit. But the ringtails will take it and one spot. It's like the difference. It's like it's like a cat. And that's it. But to go back on that too, like oftentimes I'll get bitched at because they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't dress the monkeys up and whatnot." I'm like, I'm not dressing them up. I'm putting a diaper on because I'm not trying to get all over the house.
They're not wearing formal wear.
When they're in their enclosures or when they go outside, they don't wear diapers anymore or whatever. But you have 4 of them in your house. All they do is shit every 15 steps, and I'm not trying to clean that shit all over the place.
They do, and I'll tell you what I try to tell people is they grow up and they act 2 years old the rest of their life. And one thing you got to worry about with them sometimes is they're moody, right? And when you're like their best friend or whatever, they're like your best friend most of the year. And then sometimes they just have a bad day, and their bad day is a tough day, and you got to know what you got coming. Those animals are not easy to do. Anybody can put them in an enclosure and leave them out there and put feed through a little box like they do at zoos. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about complete interactions.
Well, you have to deal with this the same as any person. Like we hit hormones go crazy and shit like that, and things happen, and then That affects the way that you deal with things, perceive things, whatever, your hormones going up, down, whatever it may be. And then when they hit sexual maturity and then when they hit season and stuff like that, they're going to act differently. It's just how you react to what they're doing. That's
Same as people.
reaction back. Yeah.
We lose our minds during puberty.
Yeah. And then it's just the same thing that they're going through. And then I think like people get these, like I'll try and steer people away from it to the best of my ability. And if they're really hell bent on it or whatever, then it is what it is or whatever. Granted, my guys usually go to the zoos, but at the same time, like, or people I know, like Troy's got one of mine and then a couple of other friends got some. So people that I know that can handle it. But at the same time, like somebody that's never done it, never owned anything like that, I try and pitch them to not go for it. Number one, like it's not only just the money. I'm like, they're expensive and it's not just buying the animal because everybody thinks that's where the price ends. But then you have to find a vet that will take care of them, which is hard enough. And you have to find out a way to be able to train them because it's not a dog. You can't train them the same way. And then you have to be able to bring them to a vet without getting your vet killed and all that other stuff too. So oftentimes it's hard to get them, looked after. It's expensive that way. Then the food that we get, like they eat better than we do. And then on top of that, just dealing with it to the point where you don't end up getting somebody severely injured. That's what people don't get. They're cute and cuddly, which is why it'll bring me, like, I'll give you a perfect example. How many pythons do you think we smoke per year? Not we, but like the state itself. Smoking thousands.
Pythons, right?
What? They're smoking pythons, just blasting them in the back of the head left and right. Now in the wild, nobody says anything. If it's somebody's pets, everybody gets in a fucking uproar and shit like that. But we have macaque monkeys and vervets that live here in Silver Springs and also in Fort Lauderdale. I get a phone call once a year to take in these macaques, which are probably carrying herpes B and all that stuff. And I won't do it because I'm not going to put myself in danger, my animals in danger, or the people that work with me, or my family. I'm not going to do it. But I had asked one time to FWC, and I did it facetiously because I don't want anything. For me, I don't want to see anything get shot. I don't want to see anything get killed. It's not their fault that they're here. But I was like, you're so comfortable shooting and saying, everybody and the brother, shoot iguanas if you want to, kill all the snakes or whatever, kill everything that's invasive. But if it's got a fuzzy face, I'm like, why don't you just go and shoot them all? And the lady's like, well, we can't do that. I'm like, yeah, because it's got a fuzzy face and then you would get attacked by animal activists the same way we get attacked when we house them and stuff. But at the same time, it's completely okay to blast something away that doesn't look cute and fuzzy. And it makes absolutely no fucking sense.
I don't know how I got away with it all these years. It's
blasting away cute and fuzzy stuff.
Yeah. How many people, if a snake slithered into their backyard or a dog, a friendly dog, doesn't matter because the snake's not causing any harm, walks into their backyard, they'll take a shovel to the snake, but the dog is, oh, come here, beautiful, let me find your owner, and, not wearing a collar.
Again, that goes back into teaching, Jeff. That's because when you're coming up, everything's like, you have their religious upwards where snakes, the devil took the form of a snake. So that's always...
serpents are bad
out of that society. And then they take certain animals, especially reptiles, and they demonize them, and they do it in all kinds of cultures. And when you do that, but there are cultures that worship crocodiles, and I just think that
Egyptians,
people just don't care. They pick and choose what they want, man. They pick and choose what they want.
That becomes the problem because when people pick and choose what they want, just like the American Crocs are making somewhat of a comeback. So we're seeing them in like Pompano Beach, Satellite Beach, or whatever. And what do you see? You don't see a news thing come out going, "Oh my God, everybody, check this out! We have an American Croc cruising Pompano." It's not bothering anybody. It's not fucking hurting anybody. It's not doing anything. We've had 2 accidents, not deaths, accidents, and it's the people's fault in those 2 accidents. And 50 years, 60 years, or whatever with these crocodiles, they don't bother people. They stay away from everybody. But then, the video footage, especially from Pompano Pier, everybody's freaking out. Oh, what are we doing about this and that? And then FWC becomes under fire because they can't put the animals down because they're protected. So they have to tell them, we kind of watch them, we tag them, we make sure they're not doing anything. And then if they're a problem for too long, then we'll put them in a facility where an alligator they'll just kill and smoke.
I got something if you're watching. If you live in the state of Florida and you're anywhere near a waterway and there's alligators and crocodiles in it, to get the fuck out of the state. That's what you do. If you're scared, take your Cocker Spaniel and your little Pomeranian and your stupid coach purse and get the fuck out of Florida then, man.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's what I think of you, not killing them. No, they want to kill them, dude. And you know what? I remember when these guys were caught drowning them with bricks and ropes because they felt like their kids were unsafe. So they were taking 3-foot alligators, tying strings around their neck, tying them to a brick and drowning them in their neck because nobody would come get them.
But
what kind of person, dude? Get out of here.
You have that type of behavior, right? And then you have like the news that fuels it because they're like, oh my God, the giant crocodile, and they make
because it makes money, brings viewership.
Yeah.
Right, because it does. There's no viewership in saying, oh my God, look at this. This is amazing. There's definitely
it's not sexy.
saying, look how dangerous this shit is, and your kids are at risk.
That's true,
right off the beach or whatever. But to your point of like everybody get the fuck out, the best part is get the fuck out of the state, move out. If you don't like snakes, guess what? We have over 50 species. If you don't like alligators and crocodiles, we got that shit too. You don't like monkeys, guess what? We got that shit too. Not supposed to, but we got that shit. We got all kinds of shit here. But no matter where the fuck you go.
Why do you want to come? You know what Florida is. People think it's bad. Go come here.
Not even that. Go anywhere else, and you're gonna have issues with other wildlife too. So you're gonna live your life constantly going place to place to place and going, oh my God, I don't like what's outside. Well, fucking like there's rats. Of course,
there's places you can live where there's nothing outside, like Hope, British Columbia. There's nothing there.
Yeah, or anywhere.
There's a tweaker that eats raw fish in caves. That's about all that's there.
Well, you could go to fucking definitely some heavily secluded places, but big ass fucking bears over there.
Yep.
You got that.
Yeah, but I'm saying those don't really bother. Bears don't really come down. I just think it's funny that everybody sees an alligator or something, and half the time you're training it. It's always someone who's not a Floridian that comes here. Okay.
Well, because they'll
that's the problem.
Like, I want to feed the birds. Oh, look at the baby alligators. Let's feed them bread. And then what happens when the alligator grows up? He comes for bread. He doesn't come for you. Next thing you know, he's getting shot in the back of a truck. And then you got all these guys that go out and then they want to catch alligators and show how cool they are. But they don't show you that they have to kill those fucking things.
No, well, they keep
the education. I mean, listen, when you care and call an alligator, we either have to kill it because there's sometimes the farms can't take them, right? And if the animal isn't impressive, like over 13 feet, they're like, fucking shoot it. Who cares? It's me.
I feel like that's the least dangerous animal of the bunch. I mean, from my alligator experience, the big ones, they just don't give a fuck. You could walk right up above them and pet them on the head. They just don't care.
In the state of Florida, we have more shark attacks in New Smyrna Beach than we've ever had every year annually of any alligator attack on people.
Well, then we should
and
start.
If nobody wants to look that up, look up the numbers. I've done those numbers.
New Smyrna, that's the shark bite capital of the entire world.
Then why are we not? Then why are we not getting house cats? Why are we not getting house cats and skinning them and eating them? Then?
Well,
cats are
all over the place here, killing everything.
I'm just
Key West
alone.
Key West has all of them there.
If you look, people complain, it's a venomous snake, it's going to kill me. And, I've looked up the statistics on snake deaths in Florida, and they're minuscule. I mean, there's it's such a drop in the bucket. More people probably die about, getting struck by lightning or,
it's
getting run over by a steamroller.
Coconuts kill more people.
Right.
You know what else kills a lot of people? Horses.
Because the thing is like if you're in Florida, number one, like we don't have a wide. We got this, the 6 species if you're going all the way north.
Right.
And then, when you really look at it, we have if you're unlucky enough to get bit by a coral snake, we have the You're in the best spot to get bit by a snake for one, and then most of the time you're nowhere. You're always close to a hospital here. Everything's fucking right down the street. Now, granted, I'm a little bit farther out, and there are some places where you're a little bit farther out or whatever. But you have time. And most of the stuff that we have, we have some really dangerous shit or whatever, the Eastern probably being the worst one or whatever for a well-placed bite. But at the same time, like you're in a good spot because we have Venom 1 down the road or whatever. But at the end of the day, you got to go fuck with it to get tagged by it.
Yep, I was going to say, just leave it alone. That's what I tell people, like, what should I do if I see a snake? I'm like, give it a wide berth and enjoy the way it looks.
Leave it alone.
Enjoy the nature of it and let it slither away and kill, 50, 100 rodents over the time that it lives in your yard. How would they feel if they were overrun by rats?
Well,
what I always like is that this is what really, and I have to say it because I want to get it out because that's how I feel. And I do a lot of shows, especially in high end areas. And anytime there's an overweight, bloated, pink, fat man that drinks too much with his denim shirt sleeves cut off, he always has something fucked up to say, right? I have friends that hunt. They clean
I
hunt.
do too.
They take an animal.
Yeah, same.
They feed their family. That's a clean hunter. I'll be doing something and there'll be children like, that's really cool. And then this guy will be like, yeah, give me some of them and I like to eat them with my beer batter.
Right.
And it's always some dumb, bloated, like
one
belly
like
button's
that last
inside
week
out.
in
You
the
can see it looks
yard.
like a little dick sticking through his shirt. And it's always one of them. It's this uneducated ideology that let's kill it. We're dumb. Let's kill it in our aluminum
But
house. It's
well,
just the
dude.
stupidest thing, dude. And I have
It's
to listen
called-
to it over and over again. I can't even talk shit to it.
It's called time and place. Real
And
hunters.
they save all their money to go stay over at the resort. They save for like 4 years for their family vacation. They save $1,000 to stay there for a night. And they got to come and say something dumb like that, dude.
Well, because what ends up happening too is like you have to figure
3 years
like,
to save $1,000 to show up at the hotel.
real hunters, number one, take care of land far better than everybody else, right? So you have real
Yeah,
hunters
they're
go out
definitely.
there and they take care of their shit because they want to come back to be able to do it again or whatever. But they're clean hunting and they're using it for food. They use the entire animal, and I
Don't
don't
overhunt.
that shit at all. But those same real hunters, if they're sitting there watching your show and there's little kids enjoying the live animals, they're not going to go over there to tell you the excursions of how many alligators they killed and they killed this and that and the other because they know the kids don't want to hear that shit. They're not going to do that. Now, an asshole that does it the opposite way or whatever is going to go over there and be like, yeah, I fucking shot one the other day. Now, I don't necessarily want to hear about that shit or whatever.
No,
I don't
hate it.
disagree with it. But if I'm doing a show for, to basically say, hey, we need to protect this, that, and the other, then the opposite of that would be, hey, we need to shoot this, that, and the other. And I don't need to hear it. Neither do the people at the show. This fucking makes no sense. But there's
Yeah.
You don't want my opinion on this. I will get booted off.
And like I said,
I'll
like
never
I
work anywhere again.
don't have a problem. And I'll tell people I don't have a problem with people who hunt and do it to hunt
No.
As long as it's
because they're taking care of
No.
things. But just a
That's
Karen
different.
call,
That's different.
a Karen call on a fucking alligator is unnecessary.
Here's
That's
my
pretty good.
problem. It is
He's gonna
not
eat
the
my cat.
my biggest issue is it's not the animal's problem that you now have moved into their territory and their home.
Right.
It is
They're not
now
in your
ours.
pond.
We need to be respectful to their territory. If you go out and you see an alligator, and listen, I've talked to so many people that live in the villages, and they're like, we actually
Yeah,
love our
yeah.
alligators. Yeah, because my in-laws used to live up there. But they're like, we actually like the alligators. Like the golfers like watching them walk across the golf. Like they get a kick out of it. They're like,
One of the best
this is what we
creatures to
moved
watch.
down for. We moved down for wildlife. We moved down for the natural part of Florida. And they actively like it. Like they don't care. They don't complain. So when you get these people that are bitching and moaning, it's like the same people I see all the time that I know that people laugh, but yeah, it's a squirrel. I get it. To most people, you're like, it's just a squirrel who gives a crap. They're everywhere, right? It's a nuisance rodent. But my biggest problem is you see this poor little rodent on the side of the road, it's like going back and forth with its own self saying, can I make it to my tree? Can I make it back? And it has to run super fast across the road that we put in place in their territory, in their home. And we're going to kill them 95% of the time because they're just trying to live their day. And we're like, well, screw you. You're just a rodent.
Or people who hunt over turtles on purpose.
Oh, and that too.
Man.
But I've seen people purposely hit squirrels for fun. Like I watch them rotate their tires on purpose to hit it. There's a way you can drive that most of the time, if you just let your car drive, the squirrel knows how to gauge that time. They're learning, like they'll be okay. But when you purposely hit them, I have a major problem with you. Like you ruin my day. Like I could take you out of your car and beat you.
Without a doubt. I've seen
There
it
you
with
go.
snakes.
They would
so many
starve without
times.
government help in hunting. Beginners' neighbors are poor, so they would starve without government help for hunting. Well, they must be some dumb bastards then, dude. Then stop breeding. That's what I'll tell you to do. You gotta lay around and collect from the government, dude. People always have an excuse of why they can't do anything, man. Like, oh, I'm poor. Well, get the fuck out and do something then, man.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it anymore. I don't even care if they're poor or not. You want to take government help. It's not government help. It's us paying taxes to the government they choose to give back to.
Right.
The people who work. Let's not forget. You pay taxes. You pay for slackers a lot of times. And it's never really going to people who need it. Never. Never. Like fucked up veterans or people who are severely mentally challenged or things that have happened, catastrophe to people and just wipe them out completely. It's always someone that doesn't want to pay a power bill because they believe they should live here for nothing.
Well, look at
That's
the fucking look at.
I don't want to get too stuck on that. I don't even think that's. I think there must be a typo there. It's just, No, it's just gonna get dumb. So what I'm gonna do is at 1 hour and 14 minutes, I'm gonna wrap it up because I think there's it gets a little too much. But I appreciate everybody coming out to the Croc show tonight and doing their thing, and I appreciate you coming in, Jeff. I know you're sick. And
No worries, man. It was a rough day. It was like one of those days where just every turn.
Hey, man, I get it. And that's why I saw some stuff that you had posted. I didn't give it any life because I don't.
Oh, dude, it is ridiculous.
I don't believe in giving people life like that. I'm not going to give them life, so we're not going to talk about him here.
I'm glad you're doing good though, Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just had
Jeff, that was some dumb shit you went through.
Oh my God, dude, that guy I'm not the only one. That guy's a freaking psycho. And yeah, I poked the bear a little bit because that's how I do. You know me. I know
you do.
I don't troll from the shadows, man. I'll stab you right in the front. I don't stab anybody in the back.
That's the way you should be.
Hell yeah, that's what a true friend
does. Stabs me, it's always in the front.
Yeah, I got home from work this morning. Just real quick. I know you're about to wrap it up.
Like what?
We were talking about coincidences. So yesterday I bought me one of those electric cars that all the kids are getting. Right? Not a Tesla, by the way.
It's okay.
I got the Mustang Mach-E. It's fucking bad.
Oh.
So I bought it. It was like a 2022. The guy actually, this poor kid didn't know what hit him because I sold cars for years in the 80s, dude, and I just destroyed these fucking dealerships. So I made him bring it to my work, because they're in Wesley Chapel. And I met the guy across the street from work, and I just drove it like a half a mile down the road, parked it in the garage. And like an hour before I left, I was like, I looked through the car and I didn't see the charging cable. And I'm at about half battery, about 150 miles, whatever. I'm like, man. So I get out in the parking garage. Sure enough, there's not one there. I was like, man. And I had the sinking feeling. But that's how my day started. And then it just was like, I came home, no snake eggs. Thanks, beginners. Appreciate you. And it's just like, and then I finally fell asleep for the first time since 2:00 yesterday or 2 days ago afternoon at like 5. And I just was like, I woke up like feeling like groggy and shit, but I'm glad I could make it, man. It's very hard to miss a Motley Croc show.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
You came in.
Thanks, guys. You guys are my family. And I want Reamer to be my family too, Justin.
I will say something really
plenty,
to circle back to the very beginning before we sign off too. It was something I wanted to mention. It was, if you look into numerology, that was something that I started paying attention to more so by what numbers hold meaning and what those meanings mean. And it's really fascinating. Like once you become in tune to it, like you won't realize how frequently numbers will appear in front of you, like out of nowhere. You need to look up what that power of that word or the number actually means. Like just Google it. When a number really pops up in front of you, like out of nowhere, you're like, why are these numbers like in front of me so bold? Just look it up.
It's holding one of those little number plates, right? That's how it pops up in front of them.
Yeah, the signs.
That's when I'm in jail.
No, but it's serious though. It is really cool.
Is that kind of like when I wake up every single night at 2:16 on the dot?
Same thing, man. 3:06.
Yeah, you got to look it up. Look up and see what 2:16 actually means in numerology and see what it represents or what the meaning is. And you think I'm crazy, but it's actually true. I started doing it even like, and I know this sounds really weird, but I really believe that the numbers guide you throughout like your day, through your life. They're constantly giving you signs. And it even comes down to like the total of your gas, what you pay for your lunch, what the bill number actually comes out to be. You'll start noticing the numbers. And then when you look up the meaning of those numbers, it almost catches you off guard where you're like, how would it even know that? This is so weird. So it's neat. No, it's okay.
You want to really have a mind fuck? Go take a look at it's like gematria, like the corresponding numbers to the Hebrew alphabet.
Uh-huh.
The numbers for mother and father equal the number for child, the word for child. It's crazy, man. It's all numbers based. So every letter corresponds to a number and all those and everything, the language, a lot of it's based around that meaning, to where these numbers correspond to what is how things are called this, that, or the other thing. It's insane.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's weird. It's when you are in tune or more open, you start seeing things that you just commonly wouldn't see. It's really neat. Oh, we got attacked by a little bug.
Oh my God. Justin, did you produce those?
I produced them myself.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh my God.
I would never be able to put those things down.
Look at their little bodies. Look at how cute they are.
Horrible.
You would, Jeff.
I don't know what it is.
I'm sure, like, okay, put that bitch to bed.
Yeah, it gets hot, and then there's
Or
4.
like when you just fall asleep, they come up and bite your damn nipple.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I've done the same thing to people, so I really can't speak to that.
That's awesome.
On that note,
They're so
Well, I'm
cute.
going to go ahead and end the show, guys. I appreciate everybody coming out again to the Motley Croc show, and thanks for the support. And again, we'll be leaving again to work on the project we're working on pretty soon. So during those weeks, I'll let you know. We won't have all of us here. If I can figure out a way to keep Jeff running it, I'll do that too. But we're definitely getting back into the swing of things as much as we can. I appreciate everybody coming to help me as well. Thank you guys for showing up.
Yep.
And thanks for everybody for coming out and checking us out. And we will talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, I'm glad I got
Have a great
to
weekend. Have a
y'all.
safe Memorial Day.
Oh yeah. Memorial Day weekend.
Be
Be
safe.
safe, everybody.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Bye, David.
that.